Hey rivals, welcome to Back's Attacks. Today we've got a very special episode, a guide to Anir. We'll be taking him out of the darkness and into the light. This is part of a week of wiki special for rival kingdoms, and we'll be looking at his spells, his sigil, and some strategies for using Anir effectively. Alright, let's begin by taking a look at his spells. On defense, he's got the Flame Bolt Tower, which is this kind of same attack and same damage as any other fire agent. His first spell is one of the most interesting, and you could call it his signature spell. It's Anti-Magic Zeal. Affected troops gain 10% increased attack damage, and they prioritize spell towers for 8 or 9 seconds. If an affected troop destroys the spell tower, then all affected troops radiate 4 to 5 damage to nearby structures for 9 seconds, and that can be stacked up to 5 times, so structures will take 22 to 23 damage per second. So that's very handy in helping to take down not only the spell tower, but other structures. His second spell, Blazing Beacon, will do some moderate damage over 5 seconds to any building, and nearby units of yours will heal 12 damage per second. So that's going to be about 60 points of health overall, not too bad. That effect will end if the building is destroyed, and it has a pretty good radius. His third spell is quite powerful and is the secret to being able to use Anir effectively. You have to be able to master this third spell. For a good 15 seconds, affected units will disable buildings they attack. However, all defenses destroyed under this effect grant 1 less mana. Now, they don't say 0 mana, because if you have a mana hunter attacking, you'll get 1 instead of 2 mana for destroying that building. So that's a good duration on that spell. However, it's only on the buildings that they're attacking. So that's a difference from Zilla's attack, which has a radius away from the units that will petrify them. Now, the stats that you've seen are for level 31. Anir is a superior ancient, and so he typically goes up to 30, but one of the things that makes him very interesting is there is some ascension material called the Sleeping Flame Sigil, which can increase his rarity 1 step, first up to rare, and then a second one up to epic. The sigil can be applied to either Anir or Solric, depending on which brother you favor. I'm going to choose Anir in this series, and this will help him level up to 40. Now, if you're wondering how his spells are affected by the fact that he changes from a superior to a rare, then you're in luck, because I've compiled that information before and after he had the transformation. So you can see that even at the same level, for example, between level 26 and 30, his stats are going to be improved just a little bit just by the fact that he is now a higher rarity. So for example, the Zeal damage is going to go up from 4 to 4 to 5, and the duration is going to increase from 8.26 to 8.48. At the same time, the beacon damage is going to go from 269 to 274, up to 284 or so. Likewise, the flame touch duration increases from 14.49 to 15.13. Now, the fire bolt damage on defense does not change no matter what his rarity level is. Okay, enough on the numbers. Let's look at some strategies. Depending who you ask, some folks say that Anir is very, very good, very strong ancient, and others will say he's nearly useless. And in looking at my own attacks, I can see why folks would say either one. If you hit bases that are below your level, like the Stronghold level 12 here, and that have lots of free mana on the outside, you're going to be able to use the high mana spells effectively. You'll get an extra healing in there if needed, and you should be able to mop up a base like this really pretty easy. So we'll put the dragon up top with the mana hunter, soak up a lot of extra mana at the beginning here, send in the troops, and we'll get that third spell up to disable whatever buildings are attacking. We have so much mana, we'll throw a beacon on the stronghold. Now you can see those kind of green lines popping up. That shows the radius, so that's a good about 3 buildings or so. It's pretty nice. And after getting them protected again, we have them go after the spell towers, and they just fly right to them, disable them, take them right out. And Anir can crush bases like this really quite well. So there's no doubt that he's very good on some bases and on weaker ones, but to be honest, a lot of ancients do well in that circumstance. Taliesin or Jal would have ripped that base apart very easily as well. Now here's a different example where if you kind of go in naively and just attack it the same way that you would attack a base with Jal, we'll see how that turns out. So here's a Stronghold 13. I have Stronghold 13 level troops as well, and this is a base that I would take out pretty readily with Jal. Build up some mana, Scorching Heat the towers, and then use the Darkened Skies to knock them out. And that would be about it for this base. Now here it's going to be more difficult because he has to get to the spell towers, and he doesn't have any way of shutting them down until the third spell is active and the troops are right on top of the spell towers. Now, if you've used Anir at all, you know that getting to the spell towers can be very tricky. So I'll grab just a little bit of extra mana over here. I won't deploy any troops though, and we'll just get this extra portal before we get the dragon out of the way. And then we're gonna dump the troops in and just kind of hope to dive in there and kind of see what happens. A typical spam them all down and see how it goes approach. And the freeze tower is locking them down, the flame tower is hammering them, and we've got a few physical defenses that are also doing a number on them. And by the time I can get to 15 mana, it doesn't matter. They're all dead. So the army is completely wiped out before even getting to the stronghold. And I think if folks have a few attacks like that in a row, that's why they're saying Anir is really not a good ancient. Okay, so let's look for a stronghold level 12 and kind of go through how I'm approaching my strategy for Anir and take a look at some of the details on that. Now this is a much better designed stronghold 12 than the one we saw earlier. There's not a lot of free mana. We can pick up the roost at the bottom, and the spell towers are nicely triangulated. And so for this approach, what I like to do is set up an attack where I get the third spell, the Flame Touch, going right close to the point where they're getting toward the stronghold. Not too early, and I probably don't have the mana to do it early anyway. And then I use that the first spell with the anti-magic zeal in order to get up to the spell towers and disable them very quickly. But we only do that once we're fairly close to them. If you do it too early, the troops will run ahead, and if they don't have the flame touch on them, then it's going to be problematic as well. So first stage, we're gathering up our mana. We drop down the troops. Now they're going to take some damage here. There's really no way to avoid that. You really have to have Paladin in the mix, and if the first spell tower you hit is a cursed one, that's going to be trouble. So I'm coming in opposite the flame tower. Alright, so let me slow down and show what's going to happen here. We got the flame touch, so any building they're attacking is going to be disabled, and they're now going to prioritize the spell towers, and watch what they do. They make a mad rush for that spell tower, destroy it immediately, and look at the mana hunters. They're flying ahead, and one hit on any other spell tower in the area is going to disable it. That's key. So having both the flame touched and the anti-magic zeal going at the same time is, in my mind, the secret sauce, the key to succeeding with Anir. I'm not sure yet if he's good for every base or if he's good for say stronghold level 15s. I'll have to come back to that one later. But if he's going to be useful at all, it has to be a combination of those two spells working together. Our next example is a little similar, so I'll go through it kind of quickly. I want to come in opposite that flame ball tower because that's going to be the one that's going to be most painful to the troops. I don't mind so much if they get frozen briefly, but I don't want them to get hit multiple times by the flame ball tower. And so we're saving up mana for the third spell, and when they get close, we'll get that first spell on there, the Zeal. Once they do, they will rush the spell towers. I have enough mana, I can do the beacon for the healing, and then the third spell again, and just run through that. So that was a Stronghold 13 hitting at 12, so that was just an example of the technique, not that as a particularly great attack. Now here's an example of a base where I'm tending to avoid this with Anir right now. I don't have a good way of beating it just yet. We're seeing some very strong spell towers, and they're in clusters. It's going to be hard to deal with them all effectively. We're going to come from the left side so that we're not frozen and getting hit by the flame bolt simultaneously, and we're hoping that we can rush forward and take out the 2 left spell towers. But the downside is if they move forward to do that, what's going to happen? They're going to be hit by the other 2 spell towers off to the right. And in addition, there's some catapults on a conduit or even a double conduit, so there's going to be some pretty strong physical damage here. And with the curse tower, we're going to be not doing healing, and we can't use the healing beacon either. So trying to use the disabling 3rd spell, trying to distract with the dragon. You just see they're taking a ton of damage. And even though we're disabling the 1 or 2 buildings we're hitting, they're coming in too strong of a cluster, and so all that splash damage is hitting them all at once. So that's not a type of base you want to be hitting with Anir. Or if you are, let me know how you do it. I'd love to hear that as well. And this is just another example of a base that I probably wouldn't be hitting with Anir. It's got the 4 spell towers all clustered together. A lot of physical damage on the conduits. It's not a clear path to get them all into the middle, so this one is one that I probably want to avoid with Anir. Alright, here's another Stronghold 13, and it's not a bad base, but I think it's one that we can attack with Anir. It's got 2 sets of spell towers, but they're widely separated, and so we only have to deal with 2 of those. Let's see, Primus Conduit is on the physical stuff mostly. We could come in up top, but then we're going to be facing all the spell towers at once, so that's not a good idea. I think we'll come in from the left again and try to take out the Insanity in the Freeze Tower, and then come through for the Stronghold. Seeing if there's any other free mana around. There's not. Our troop mix should be okay for this. And so let's go ahead. Want to make sure our Mauler comes in at that Skywatcher and not further south. We'll get the other troops down below that, spread them out a little bit. Now, I'm showing this one as an instructive mistake. You may be wondering, why does it matter what order the spells go in? Why can't you use that Zeal first? And we'll use the dragon to distract, and we'll cast that, and the troops will go after those spell towers. Alright, and we're in good shape now. We'll take out the Stronghold, but look, the duration of the Zeal Tower is fast enough. They run forward without doing any disabling of buildings, and they just get absolutely crushed by the Flame Tower and all the other defenses on the other side there. And so if you don't have any disabling going on, or if you get the timing wrong on that first spell by itself, it's just not going to work out well for you. Hope that's okay, showing what not to do as well as what to do. I think you can learn just as much, if not more, from failures and from mistakes as well. And in some cases I kind of know that they're not going to work out well, but I'll show you the effects of them anyway. Now this is an interesting base. It's a Stronghold level 14, and it's got some pretty good defenses. However, it's got that split of the spell towers again, and there's no high damage over on the left side there. So I think I'm going to give this a try. I honestly don't know if this one is going to work out. It's got that flare tower too, but our approach, because we're kind of not casting a lot of spells up front, saving up for the 15, the flare tower won't be ricocheting on us. Now the thing that decided, yes, I do want to attack this base is due to this weakness in the east. The watchtower is being upgraded, and so we'll be able to get several free mana and dragon charge time up front. Without that, I probably would not attack this base, because getting to that 15 early and being able to distract the dragon is going to be key, as you'll see in a second here. So as the dragon is finishing up here, we're going to drop in the troops, get a little bit of spread on them. Be nice if only a few got hit by the insanity, and that's what happened. That's good. Alright, Dragon's going to come in, distract a bit, hit the flare before any spells are cast, get the flame touch down, so we're starting to disable defenses. We'll get the Dragon distracting and hitting the flare again. And now we're close to the spell towers. We're going to take them out quickly, I hope. Dragon knocks out that flare, that's excellent. And now I'm going to put a beacon down. That's really the best thing for the troops at this point. I don't want them to go ahead to the next spell tower just yet. And I won't get up to 15 in time. And I've knocked out the anti-air unit, so if nothing else, the Dragon is going to take down this stronghold. So that worked out very well. I don't think the troops have much gas left, but we'll get the disabling, we'll head them to the spell towers, see what we can do. No, there just weren't enough left. But the key on that one was the split of the spell towers, and the ability for the Dragon to distract, and the good timing between the first and the third spell. And also using a second one to heal there at the end. Okay, let's look at a special case where the spell towers are completely out of play. Is this a base where you want to use Anir for? And yes, even though it's a Stronghold 14, that third spell, the Flame Touch, is going to be very useful. The ability to disable the defenses that the units are attacking. Now don't cast it when you're beating on a wall because there's no advantage there. Wait until the breach in the wall. Use the Dragon to distract as much as you can. And notice with that spell there, as soon as they start attacking the defenses, they just stand there and take their beating, which is good. When we get to 15 mana, we recast that, and they just move across the base on a wave and leave the Dragon completely free to finish up the stronghold. Alright, well that about wraps up this guide. Let's just recap some of the things we talked about today. Anir is definitely a strong ancient, but he's not the strongest. He's not as good as some of the very top ones. Clustered spell towers are a red flag that you have to be very cautious about. My approach for using Anir is to use the third spell, followed by the first one, and if you're wondering should you be using the sigil on Sulric or Anir, I find that Sulric's second spell and Malak's second spell being identical make those two very similar. If you already have Malak, I would avoid giving it to Sulric and go with Anir instead. If you like a simpler approach, Sulric's your guy. If you like a more nuanced approach and a more strategic approach, I would go with Anir. So that wraps up my entry for the Week of Wiki. If you like this video, please do me a big favor and drop a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And be sure to leave any tips you have for Anir here as well. Thanks so much for watching.